Good day everyone, I'm your Junior Cadet Domingo and I'm here to discuss the three Marpol annexes, which are the Marpol Annex 4, Marpol Annex 5, and Marpol Annex 6. Let's go! Marpol Annex 4. Annex 4 contains a set of regulations regarding the discharge of sewage into the sea from ships, including regulations regarding the ship's equipment and systems for the control of sewage discharge, the provision of port reception facilities for sewage, and requirements for survey and certification. It is generally considered that on the high seas, the oceans are capable of assimilating and dealing with raw sewage through natural bacterial action. Therefore, the regulations in Annex 4 of Marpol prohibit the discharge of sewage into the sea within a specified distance from the nearest land, unless otherwise provided. Governments are required to ensure the provision of adequate reception facilities at ports and terminals for the reception of sewage, without causing delay to ships. The Annex 4 entered into force on 27 September 2003. A revised Annex 4 was adopted on April 1, 2004 and entered into force on August 1, 2005. The revised Annex applies to ships engaged in international voyage of 400 gross tonnage and above, or which are certified to carry more than 15 persons. The Annex requires ships to be equipped with either an approved sewage treatment plant or an approved sewage communating and disinfecting system, or a sewage holding tank. Marpol Annex 5. Marpol Annex 5 seeks to eliminate and reduce the amount of garbage being discharged into the sea from ships, unless expressly provided otherwise. Annex 5 applies to all ships, which means all ships of any type whatsoever operating in the marine environment, from merchant ships to fixed or floating platforms to non-commercial ships like pleasure crafts and yachts. Although the annex is optional, it did receive a sufficient number of ratifications to enable entry into force on 31 December 1988. Today, more than 150 countries have signed up to Marpol Annex 5. Marpol Annex 5 generally prohibits the discharge of garbage into the sea, except as provided otherwise in Regulation 4, 5, and 6 of Annex, which are related to food waste, cargo residues, cleaning agents and additives, and animal carcasses. Under Marpol Annex 5, garbage includes all kinds of food, domestic and operational waste, and plastic cargo residues, incinerator ashes, cooking oil, fishing gear, and animal carcasses generated during the normal operation of the ship and liable to dispose of continuously or periodically. Garbage does not include fresh fish and parts therefore generated as a result of fishing activities undertaken during the voyage, or as a result of aquaculture activities. Marpol Annex 6. Marpol Annex 6, first adopted in 1997, limits the main air pollutants contained in ships' exhaust gas, including sulfur oxide and nitrous oxide, and prohibits deliberate emissions of ozone-depleting substances. Marpol Annex 6 also regulates shipboard incineration and the emissions of volatile organic compounds (VOC) from tankers. Following entry into force of Marpol Annex 6 on 19 May 2005, the Marine Environment Protection Committee (MEPC), at its 53rd session, July 2005, agreed to revise Marpol Annex 6 with the aim of significantly strengthening the emission limits in the light of technological improvements and implementation experience. As a result of 3 years examination, MEPC 58, October 2008, adopted the revised Marpol Annex 6 and Associated Nitrous Oxide Technical Code 2008, which entered into force on July 1, 2010. Revised Marpol Annex 6. The main changes to Marpol Annex 6 are a progressive reduction globally in emissions of sulfur oxide and nitrous oxide and particulate matter, and the introduction of emission control areas to reduce emission of those air pollutants further in designated sea areas. Under the revised Marpol Annex 6, the global sulfur limit will be reduced from current 3.50% to 0.50 effective from January 1, 2020, subject to a feasibility review to be completed no later than 2018. MEPC 70, October 2016, considered an assessment of fuel oil availability to inform the decision to be taken by the parties to Marpol Annex 6, and decided the fuel oil standard 0.50% sulfur limit shall become effective on January 1, 2020. The limits applicable in ECAS for sulfur oxide and particulate matter were reduced to 0.10% from January 1, 2015.